Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by a very good friend from TheNerdScrolls. Check out that channel, it's very good. TheNerdScrolls is based on a fantasy roleplay game, which isn't always fantasy but is normally fantasy. So yeah, this game is Dungeons and Dragons. So would you like to talk a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons?
Of course. Well, Dungeons and Dragons claims to be the world's greatest role-playing game, and I think by this time no one can doubt that.
It is.
So, my role is the Dungeon Master. Now this includes making sure the story plays out perfectly. I am basically the narrator in the story. Owen here normally plays as a player. He is someone who has a character who interacts with the world I set up for them. Now, here is the 3 books that are provided. These are the ones that you'd need to play. You practically only need the player's handbook to start playing, but if you're someone who switches between a player or a DM, or just wants to have all 3, I recommend getting both Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and if you want to know more about the monsters, or if you are a DM who needs to know all the stats, definitely Monsters Manual. So this is 5th edition, so this is the latest edition that they've released. Some people do still play the older editions because some people prefer the rule set. So let's have a quick chat with Owen. What have been your experiences with D&D so far?
Well, I've done a lot of D&D, and mostly with you as DM.
Yep.
And there was one time when I was in a house. I was in the top floor of it was an inn, I think, tavern place.
Yeah.
Just on the top floor. It's in my bedroom, and then a window smashes and a cloaked figure starts running away. Now my friend Jack, who's the stealthy one, you know where this is going. He wouldn't go after the guy. So me being me, pulled out my gun, pointed at him, and went, "You go after him or I shoot you."
So Owen here threatened one of our players.
It didn't go very well, because in the end I shot him, and then my friend Jake threw a hammer into my face.
Let's just say everyone ended up on bad terms,
but we did catch the guy in the end.
We did.
We did.
It worked out.
Very difficult, but we did.
Okay, so I'll go through each book and quickly explain what all of them do. So the Player's Handbook includes all of the stats for all of the races and all of the classes you need to play. Also talks about how combat works and how the basic rules work, so reading through that book will give you all the knowledge you need to actually play the game. The Dungeon Master's Guide gives you tools on how to create your world, make interesting stories, and make sure your plots are always sufficient and your players are always enjoying themselves. And the Monsters Manual includes all of the information for most of the monsters they have. There are a few that appear in later DLCs, such as, it's not DLCs, that's downloadable. Expansions, that's what I was looking for. Oh, what a stupid way of saying that. Expansions like Curse of Strahd and Storm King's Thunder. There are a few monsters that appear in that you have to buy those books to have a look at the stats, but the Monster Manual includes all of the stats for all of the base monsters. For example, the Beholder that is on the front page, the Lich that is on the Dungeon Master's Guide, and a Fire Giant that is on the Player's Handbook. I think that is a Fire Giant. So, that's basically what all of these books have. Now, from my personal experience with these books, all of them are fantastic. My favourite has to be the Dungeon Master's Guide, just because I love creating D&D stories, I love the creative element that it comes to it, and the Dungeon Master's Guide really does have a lot of resources to help you make them. They have tables that you can roll to help you give good plot lines, and they also have other tables that help you make interesting hooks and how to wrap up your campaigns, because a lot of DMs sometimes struggle how to end their campaigns sufficiently to make it seem worthwhile for their players, and some DMs even struggle to start their campaigns. My second favourite has to be the Player's Handbook, just because I can always enjoy reading through all the classes, and it's an essential tool for a DM for creating NPCs, or if you just want to make players yourself, or if you want to make some characters yourself, just so if you do get a chance to be as a player, you have characters ready. Now, nothing against the Monsters Manual, or because it's last doesn't mean it's my least favourite, it just means that out of all of them, the Monster Manual has to be the one I come to the least amount of times, because after you read through and after you get the stats, the monsters are always the afterthought. It's always about how the story plays out and how the characters will react. I always think of the monsters as the icing on the cake. They're the things that make it interesting. The story is there for the monsters to be there. So that's a basic run through of all the books. Any finishing comments for you?
I don't think so. what's your best experience in Dungeons and Dragons then?
My best experience, it has to come from the first time I was a player. This was last year. This is when I had the opportunity to play as a player while attending one of our local game shops, attending one of their D&D campaigns. And this was when I was still quite nervous as playing as a player. I was so used to being in control of everything. It was a bit weird to be put on the spot as a player, which may sound quite silly, as when you're the DM you're always on the spot as you're the one who keeps the story going. But I was with a group and we were separated. Some of us were some places, some of us were other places, and we were all meeting up together. But I was with two other people. I was with a dwarvish paladin and I was with an elvish ranger, and we were climbing up a mountain and we were getting onto a flat spot, and we were heading towards this signpost in the middle that led off into different directions. And I wanted to be the character who was really cool and had like an advantage on all of what was going on. So when they said a shadowy figure was coming over the hill, I decided it would be a good idea to climb the pole and to balance on top of it and try and keep a lookout. And then it turns out that person was another one of the players who was meeting up with us. So everyone laughed as they all went up in the middle and just had me on top of a pole, just bouncing away. It was a really funny start. It what got me and the group really comfortable with each other, but it was a very funny start because they mocked me for it the rest of the campaign. Even when we were slaying armies, they would still remind me, you're the one who balanced on top of that pole, and they called me Pole Guy. And that was one of my nicknames for my characters. So that has to be one of my funniest experiences. As a DM, I have too many funny experiences to name. Most of them happened with this guy here. How about the funny time when you betrayed one of your friends and killed the entire village?
Now, there was one day when we were in a cave and I was taking on the arch-villain, and in the middle of the battle, no one else was looking, he asked me, would I like to join? So me being me, said, of course I would. So the next, about 2 days later I think it was, we were nice snug in our bed, and then a fire started. Suddenly the guards in the village were surrounding the village and we were under attack. And then I walked out of my house. I saw two guards fighting with some bandits that were attacking. So I walked up to the guards. I told them to fall back to my level. I can help you fight. They fall back to my level.
And he killed them.
I ripped their heads open.
Basically.
And then I went and ran in with, then all of the village apart from the town hall had fallen, and I was standing outside the town hall with all my friends who were playing. These are the real characters. And I go forward with one of them to fight, but as soon as someone's about to kill me,
he turns his side and attacks him instead.
I punch my friend right in the face. I knock him out.
That evening had a very interesting turn of events where our friend Owen here decided to betray everyone, and then the rest of the players were left tied up and knee-bound, looking at the arch-villain as you appear, and you explain how you want to torture them. Unfortunately, the gnome, played by Jake, lost his arm at the hands of Owen. And unfortunately the ranger lost his eye. When me, following Dungeon Master's guide and rules, looked at the consequences for losing an eye, and it was disadvantage on some perception checks, but then I also didn't realise upon reading further ahead that it gives disadvantage to all range attacks, and of course this guy, Chris, decided to put all of his proficiencies into using ranged weapons, so gave him disadvantage for all of the good things. Oh, what an unfortunate time. He was a bit sad, but...
Word of advice, if you want to be a ranger and you want to use all your ranged attacks,
wear goggles.
Don't lose an eye.
Wear goggles.
An unfortunate end for some friends of mine.
But an interesting tale of how some friendships are working at the table. It's always nice to see how some people decide to go to the table and betray their friends. It's a good way of seeing how your friendship stands.
And my friends were very salty about that afterwards.
They were.
Practically every day.
Not the happiest people. Even outside of D&D, they was considered to be a very major betrayal. But at least it didn't happen.
I don't know why.
Jake still has his arm, and Chris still has an eye.
Yeah.
He has both eyes, but just realised that made it sound like he at least had one eye left. No, that they're all fine. It's just that's a problem. You make sure you keep your differences like at the table. If you betray someone in game, doesn't mean you've been betrayed in real life. Because if you keep those hostilities towards each other, it can be quite bad for other life experiences. Especially since all of us are still in school and you meet with each other every day. It can make your later encounters quite difficult if you're all still a bit salty, as Owen said about the encounters that have happened. But that is the basics when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons. I'll probably help out with videos in the future of helping explain it more, and hopefully in the store we also have a little bit of the campaign to be showed off, or recording some actual play of Dungeons & Dragons, so you get to see Owen in action and my DMing skills in action.
Be able to see me role playing, well, whatever character I decide to play.
Yes,
I haven't actually created a character yet, so.
Because we are going to be doing a space-themed D&D adventure that is actually a nice 5e conversion of the D20 modern rules, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that is it for explaining D&D. It's been great to be on the show. I've always wanted to say that. That's preparation for later on in life.
Yeah.
But I'd shake your hand. It has been a great experience going on here, and make sure you check out
My
the
pleasure
NerdScrolls.
to have you on. Yeah. Check out the NerdScrolls.
I am a channel just focused on doing D&D and other nerdy content. I record a lot of tabletop games, but D&D is my main focus. So make sure you check me out. Link will be in the description down below. Tap the table. And yes, it's been great being on the show. Make sure you do subscribe to Lord of the Board if you're not subscribed already. That would be a great thing. Leave a like, comment saying how much you love the video. Hope you love the video. And I'll have to say goodbye from me. It's been great being on the show.
And I will have to say goodbye from me. Please like and subscribe. I'll
See
see you in the next video.
Bye. So that combined our outros.